Welcome to Empty Nesters True Crime Podcast, where we explore chilling mysteries and dark secrets. With their nest now empty, Susan and Nancy have more time to uncover the truth and venture into the unknown. Let's step into the shadows together, shall we?
Well, hey, Susan.
Hey, Nancy, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. This is exciting, our first podcast.
I know. We've been talking about this for a while, and I'm so glad to get it started.
I know. I mean, we became empty nesters at 2020. No, I was 2020.
I was a couple years later.
2022.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you do when the kids are gone?
Well, that was a tough year for me, you know that. But I do remember when I became an empty nester, you came down to my house, you had a bottle of wine, and you had some flowers, and we had some good girl time that night.
Yes. So now we've decided to start our own true crime podcast because that's something we have in common. Because you cannot just drink wine every night for the rest of your life when you're an empty nester.
Oh, yeah. Susan and I, we love to dive into these crime stories and
we think we can solve some of them.
Yes, we can.
But tonight, you have a story for me.
I do have a story. I'm very anxious to share this one with you.
I'm very excited.
Okay, so I will start my story tonight. Let me put my readers on because you know we're at that age, Susan.
Well, that's why we're empty nesters.
And you know, I think we are kind of enjoying these years right now, right?
I think it's wonderful.
It was a little adjustment, but we're handling it.
Yes.
With our girls' nights and our awesome cocktails that you're making. Did you want to talk about your cocktail before we start?
I'm going to share that with my podcast, my story.
Okay, well, we'll wait on that one. Okay, and I'll get started with mine. Okay, so all the details surrounding this disappearance are so bizarre. It's going to make your head spin. This is the case that I heard when I first started listening to true crime, and it's one that I have not forgotten. And to this day, I still think about the case. This one is about a 19-year-old college student named Bryce Laspisa. Of course, I'm starting with the college one because I think that's something that, you know, we kind of relate to these kids.
Don't those keep you up at night?
But that's the problem. I do. I think about, and this kid I think of like it could have been, you know, a 19-year-old. I have a 19-year-old, and when I share the details of the story, it's a little disturbing. But let's jump into it. So his freshman year, he went to the college called Sierra College. His freshman year was very normal. He had a great roommate. His name was Sean. They became close friends. And he even started dating a girl named Kim. So freshman year for him, everything was great. Comes home for the summer, everything's good, he goes back. Sophomore year is when everything changes. So now, sophomore year, it's a totally different story. Things seem off with him. The girlfriend says, and also his roommate notices that Bryce starts drinking quite a bit. They describe it as excessively, definitely more than a regular college student would be drinking.
And that must be a lot because those college kids know how to party.
Yes. So he starts off school. His first day of classes went well. He even calls home and tells his mom, everything seems good. But then things start to change. So a couple weeks into it, on August 27th, his friends notice that he's drinking a lot still, and he's also taking the ADH drugs, but he's using them recreationally. And he stays up all night playing video games, and they're so concerned that they actually call his mom and let her know that his behavior, is not the normal that it has been, and they're kind of concerned about him. So, then it starts on August 28th.
That's my birthday.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's when things start to change in this story for poor Bryce. So on August 28th, which was believed that Bryce had probably been up for a couple days straight, probably doing the HGAD medicines, his roommates are concerned, so they call his mom to tell him about the bizarre behavior he's been having. A couple hours later, we have an incident with the girlfriend. Bryce calls his mom from her house. Her name is Kim. Bryce calls his mom from Kim's house because Kim won't give him his keys to leave. Apparently, Bryce had broke up with her that night before, and Kim is concerned again because he's acting so strangely and he's in no condition to drive. So she is holding his keys, but Bryce tells his mom on the phone that he's fine. He explains to his mom that Kim's just upset because he broke up with her and he just wants to leave. His mom says that he does sound fine, so she tells Kim, the now ex-girlfriend, to go ahead and give him his keys so he can leave. Susan, this is where the story really starts. So he leaves the house about 11:30. Then, 1 a.m. in the morning, Bryce calls his mom like he's checking in, but the mom thinks during the conversation that Bryce is back at his apartment. But later, when the phone was pinged to see where his call was coming from, he was an hour south from the apartment, which is really weird because he never went home. So 11 a.m. the next morning, Bryce's parents get notification from State Farm that roadside assistance was used. So Karen, his mom, calls Sean, the roommate, who confirms that Bryce did not go home that evening. So the mom then tried to call Bryce, but he doesn't pick up. So the parents are, log into their credit card, and they can see that Bryce had used roadside service at a station in Buttonwillow. It's at a place called Castro Tire and Truck. But the weird part is the station was only a few hours from his home.
What part of the country is this?
California?
I think it's out west, yeah.
Yeah, it's California.
Yeah.
But the weird part is the station is only a few hours from the parents' home. So clearly he started heading home. The parents call the service station and speak with Christian, who remembers Bryce because he's the one that brought him gas when he had made the service call. So around 9 a.m., the parents realize that if Bryce got gas, then he should only be, a few hours from home. So Christian offers to go back to the spot where he had given Bryce the gas, and he's still there. He never left. So the whole time he's still sitting there. So when he returns, he finds him sitting there in the car. But the strange thing is, it had been many hours, of course, since he got the gas. He just hadn't moved. So he does tell Bryce. His parents are worried. And then Christian actually calls Bryce's parents for him. The parents just tell Bryce to come on home. At this point, he's about 3 hours from the house. Christian does watch him drive away. So, okay, Susan, here's a red flag for me. Because your son's been sitting on the side of the road for hours, and you tell him, just drive on home. Just drive on home. Okay, so now at 12 p.m., the shop guy says he watches Bryce start the car and drives away. So he should be home about 3 p.m. Hours go by. Bryce still is not home. And he's not answering. So at 6 o'clock, his parents file a missing report. The police use the cell phone, which apparently they get permission from the company, because it's an emergency, to ding where he is, and they see he's in Buttonwillow still. Now it's like 9 hours.
He's never left
left Buttonwillow. The police officers actually find him maybe 8 miles from the spot that he had gotten the gas the first time. The cops report that Bryce seems fine, gives him a sobriety check. Bryce passes. The officer actually dials his parents for him because they said he was reluctant to call so, which, is a little strange right there. The police officer indicates to the parents that he seems fine. They hand over the phone so they can talk to him directly. The parents tell him just to drive home. Okay, again, another red flag. We keep telling Bryce to drive on home. I mean, we know he's acting out of character and behaving strangely, but we just keep saying, come on home, Bryce.
And the police allowed him to leave.
And the police allowed him to leave. Yep, I mean...
Now, we don't know if the police knew everything that had happened before, but...
Yeah, but it's red flagging me with the parents, because wouldn't you say, let me come get you?
I would have told mine, stay put, we're on our way.
See? Okay, so the parents do end up back in touch with Christian. Remember the guy from the thing that gave him the gas? Mm-hmm. And he volunteered to go look for Bryce again. So Christian checks back in with the parents after finding him at the location the police officers had stopped him at, still sitting there on the side of the road. So he's not moving. So I'm sorry, but at this point, as we talked about, I don't know why they didn't go get him. He's only a few hours from home. But they didn't. So Christian does follow Bryce to make sure he gets on the highway this time, and he's heading home. So now 2 a.m., Bryce calls and tells his parents he's too tired to drive and he's going to sleep in his car. But now he's less than 2 hours away. Another red flag, Susan. I'm sorry, but I would have been in my car going after him.
I'm not going to let my 19-year-old boy or girl sleep in the car overnight.
And, all this time he's been heading home and he doesn't get very far. But unfortunately, they tell him to come on home. But unfortunately, this is also the last time the parents ever hear from Bryce. August 30th at 8 a.m., a police officer shows up at the home and tells the parents that Bryce's Highlander was found crashed near Lake Passaic. It's about 2 hours from the parents' home. When they investigate the scene, it appears the car was accelerating when he drove over with no sign of braking. It was also said that the back window was broken and appeared to have been pushed out from the inside. They saw small drops of blood in the car, but nothing significant. His phone and wallet were found in or around the car with some of his clothes, but Bryce was never found. The area was searched and dogs were even brought in. The scene was traced to a nearby truck stop, but then the lead went cold. There has never been any confirmed sightings of him. He's described as a 5', 11-inch, 170-pound young man with red hair, and from the pictures, his hair is, pretty red. You think that, would stand out for sure, and he has got blue eyes. If he did walk away from the accident, why did he leave his phone and wallet behind? Or could there have been foul play? Did he just vanish off the grid on his own? Some believe he, did it to start a new life. So right before this, he had given away, before he left, for home, and when he's having the trouble with his girlfriend, he had given away his Xbox and also a pair of diamond earrings. So some are saying that could have been signs of suicide. So the whole report where the car, was accelerating could have been a suicide attempt.
That was my thought, but then where's the body?
Yep, and obviously, did he survive or did somebody make it look like he survived? There's, some theories. But also, could the ADHD drugs he was taking cause all the weird and erratic behaviors? Could he have gotten amnesia from the accident? But to this day, there has been no confirmed sightings of him. So, Susan, the question is, what happened to Bryce?
I don't know.
Nobody knows. So that is the story that I think keeps me up. Like, where is this young man? What happened to him? Why was he having such difficulty just driving home? Did he not want to end up at home for some reason?
I don't know. But it's like everybody knew something was wrong with Bryce.
Yes. The roommate, Sean, knew. Kim, the girlfriend, knew. They were telling the parents. But, maybe because they're not seeing him, they didn't realize that he was having so many issues. But I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, us as parents, that's hard to hear, right?
And he's still missing.
No sightings, just walked away from that accident, and no one's seen him since. Yeah, the Facebook group has, you can log on and join their Facebook, and they always, have searches for him, and people are, keeping his name out there to hopes that somebody will have some information to share, but to this day, there has been nothing.
Terrible. I can't imagine as a parent living your life just knowing it just said come on home. Yeah, and then when they had Christian there, what I don't get is why didn't they have Christian take him back to the service station and the parents drive there and get him? Like somebody put him in the car because clearly he's not in his right mind if he's, not getting anywhere after all these hours. And then you could go pick him up a couple hours from home at that service station. So, there's so many theories. If you look the case up that, there were issues at home, who knows? And that's all speculations, just from different sites. But it is a little concerning that nobody physically had taken him somewhere safe and then just come and brought him home. Okay, so Susan, this did happen in 2013, so that's 11 years ago. And for our listeners, you didn't catch this, but we had to take a break. Susan had to remake our cocktails. The glass always has to be full.
Absolutely. And they're delicious, by the way, Susan.
If it ain't full, it's empty.
You definitely make some good cocktails, girl.
So, yeah. I just can't imagine how his parents feel. I mean, they probably just thought he was coming home. They probably didn't even give it a second thought.
Yeah, when, we were kind of talking a little bit that he was a normal kid, had a normal normal parents. Everything about him was normal. In that second year of college, he got into, drinking and trying some things. And did this what changed him? Did something else happen in college that year that nobody knows about? Because of course we talked about where he had some suicidal, red flags about giving his possessions away. But besides that, nothing else kind of stood out to his friends of being wrong.
And it could have been a mental illness.
So yeah, that was one of those.
If I have this right from everything I've listened to in true crime, that's an age that schizophrenia a lot of time will present itself.
Mm-hmm.
So was it something like that? Not that, I'm not saying it's that, but is there something that was mentally he just didn't know how to deal with and was covering it up with drugs and alcohol?
Well, also that too. If you have something and you're taking stuff that you shouldn't be taking, it's going to amplify things and not for the better. But, I think as a parent, when the roommate was calling, the girlfriend was calling, those kids were concerned. And, those are great friends. We all hope our kids have friends like that.
Absolutely.
That pick up the phone and call us if they think something's wrong. But I just wish the parents, they could have flew out there, got him, made sure he was okay. Like, we always say that when our kids go out. What do we do, Susan? We're on life. Okay, so I might be on Life 360. My kid's at a party the next day. I want to make sure they're safe. I want to make sure they're, home.
So people that listen to us some of you know us, some of you will not know us. Nancy is the helicopter mom.
I'm a helicopter mom. Yes, I am.
Susan is not. I do not have Life 360 on my kid's phone. I never have. But I do have the location for my 22-year-old daughter. So that's about, I am like one wing of the helicopter.
Yeah, I know that Life 360. Everybody's got different thoughts. My thing with my kids was always, I'm never going to say anything about where you're at, what time you get home. I just want to know you're safe. Susan and I, we listen to so many true crime podcasts, and we hear about so many things, and it's just, that's why I tell my kids it's a safety feature. They actually tell me they have it with their friends, like separately, like, a group of friends will have it.
Oh, absolutely, and they should.
So I know some people think it's a spying thing, but, that's all right. But, I have gotten up middle of the night, looked at my phone, and say, okay, they're back at their place, or, they're safe. Yeah. But 2013, I don't know if they even had that back in 2013. How old is Life 360? I don't think. Because I wasn't looking at it back then. My kids were too young.
I don't know. So. But I have to say, I'm not the helicopter mom, but my 22-year-old is the helicopter daughter.
Oh, she's the one that has it going for.
She will be like, if I don't answer the phone, I get text, where you at? What are you doing? Why aren't you answering my calls? Or what, because she is out of state right now, and I went to visit her, and we took an Uber from one place to another, and the Uber driver, I was telling the Uber driver, because I had to be at the plane was taking off like at 7 a.m., so I need to get there. I have to be there early, and the Uber driver says, here's my personal cell phone number. You just text me, and I'll pick you up the same spot as your hotel, and I'll take you. We just won't go through Uber. So I'm like, okay. So I put his number in my phone, but I don't like call him or anything. I just put the number in my phone, and I put Uberman, and I'm like, well, let me see, because the hotel had a transportation I was going to try to get first. But in the back of my head, I was just being nice, getting the man's number, and I wasn't planning on using him to take me to the airport. I was going to use actual Uber. No sooner he drops us off for our Two Friends concert, we were walking down the street, and my daughter says, oh, like hell you're calling that Uber man and not going through Uber. And I was like, no, I'm really not. I was just being nice. And she's like, nuh-uh, you don't even be nice about stuff like that. What you trying to teach me? So,
I love it. Our kids know how to be safe, probably more than we give them, more than I probably give them credit to. You clearly do, but good for her. She's absolutely a good kid. They know.
Well, let's not push it, Nancy. But if that, she was concerned for her mother was not going to get in a random man's car.
Yeah, so. Go through the proper channels. Make sure you get the guy and they give the picture. And
make sure at least Uber has vetted him.
At least, yeah. I like that, Susan.
But yeah, so I mean, I feel my heart breaks for Bryce's family. I hope that someday they do have some kind of closure.
Yeah, and like I said, if you go on that Facebook page, I definitely keep it open, looking for.
Do you just put, what's his name, Bryce?
Bryce Laspisa. Never know. Somebody, look at the pictures. You never know. You might see something out there and bring somebody's kid home, right?
Somebody knows something somewhere. Thanks for joining us on Empty Nesters True Crime Podcast, where we've delved into chilling mysteries and dark secrets. With their nest now empty, Susan and Nancy will keep uncovering the truth and venturing into the unknown. Until next time, stay safe and step into the shadows with us again.